Last month, I messed up, and I ended up having the worst period I have ever had in my life. In today's video, I want to take you through what the symptoms were that I experienced that classifies it as the worst period of my life, everything that I did wrong last month, the things that missed the mark, and then what I am going to do this month, what I've already started doing, as I move forward into taking better care of myself so that my cycle is not a raging storm. Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Kayleigh. I really love talking about healing and wellness and faith, and this video is a bit more personal than others, but I am here to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of all the aspects of healing. And this is definitely where I am at right now in my life, so I think sharing it is the empowering move to make instead of trying to pretend like it's not happening and then keep talking about wellness and healing. I can't do that. So here we go. In case you are not aware, a woman has 4 phases in her monthly flow of hormones. The start of our phases is the menstrual cycle when we bleed, and then we have follicular, ovulation, and luteal. I'm going to be talking about the luteal phase right now. Our luteal phase is generally around 2 weeks before our cycle begins, before the menstruation. And this is the phase in which we start to experience our PMS. I knew in the second week of my luteal phase that a horrible period was coming because of the PMS symptoms I experienced. I am not someone who usually experiences symptoms of PMS. However, in this season of life, they've really been ramping up, and so I've been paying attention to them a lot. Let me break it down for you. A week before my cycle came, I experienced classic chest tenderness, breast tenderness, but it was bad. It was really bad, and I was a little bit surprised at how bad it was. But I knew, okay, my period is coming. I wasn't afraid at this point. All right. And then I started to experience bloating, and I started to experience some moodiness, and I'm like, okay, all right. And then I started experiencing what I call pre-cramps or ghost cramps, and I don't know if there is like an actual correct word for this, but it is the cramps you experience before your period. I started experiencing these and was a little bit, that's an exaggeration. That's not an exaggeration. That's not enough of an exaggeration. I was a lot of bit shocked at how intense these cramps were when my period had not yet started. This is when I was fully aware I was about to face something really difficult. That opened the door to fear and anxiety and stress and worry, and I started experiencing a lot of negative emotions. The scales really started tipping about 48 hours out from my cycle. One, an external factor happened. I had a video on TikTok go viral, and I received an excessive, like an extreme amount of hate. And my really good friend pointed this out to me later. I read hundreds of hateful comments. There were thousands, but I didn't read all of them. I read hundreds of hateful comments of people saying horrible things to me. I thought I shook it off. I thought I was like, okay, well, you know what? People get angry and you just can never predict that, and people just are so willing to just be so unkind online. Shake it off. But I started experiencing really intense negative self-talk. And I was shocked. I used scripture, I used prayer. I was like, that's not the truth, but it just kept coming. The day before my cycle, another external factor came into play that made this just, it just punched me into the ground. I had breakfast that day, and then I was out of the house for a huge portion of the day, and I did not eat, and I did not have enough water. And then I had come home. I was very exhausted. I would say I had about 3% of myself to give, but we were going to be hosting people in our home that evening, so I had a lot of work to do, and I had a lot of emotions swelling up in me, and I shut down. And when I shut down, a problem I have struggled with my whole life is to not eat. And the next morning, my period started. I knew it was going to be bad. I could not anticipate the intensity of how horrible it was. I described the period cramps to 2 of my friends, one who has had a baby in the last 4 months, and the other one who had her last baby 9 years ago. Both of these women told me that I was describing contraction level cramps. So the pain was steady and stable in my lower back and moved throughout my abdomen and was in my lower front belly. And instead of it just being this aching, crampy feeling, it was coming in waves, swelling over me. And if I was standing and the wave came, it literally dropped me down to the ground because of the immense pressure pushing in my uterus. Like, it felt like pressure pushing me down. It was so horrendous. And a bit more detail for the women here, the flow wasn't as heavy as one would have thought it should be for the amount of pain. So it felt like my body was like trying to get it out and it wasn't coming out. It was so horrible. And that night, I couldn't stand straight. Like, my body was doubled over, almost like I was in the shape of a 7 the entire evening. And I got into bed with this feeling of like relief that I no longer had to stand, and I couldn't straighten my body. I was just crumpled, and the swelling and waves just kept rolling. I would try to fall asleep, and then the wave would come and my body would convulse. I couldn't even like stay still. I couldn't not make sound. I was in so much excruciating pain. I'll show you now that I am actually tracking the phases, and I have been doing this for over a year, tracking my phases like this. Sometimes I am aware of which phase I'm in, but not making wise decisions about what to do for that phase. It's just like I have to learn something over and over and over again, or have a personal experience with why this information is important for it to settle in. This was my personal experience. Now I'm going to transition us into what went wrong. What did I do wrong? If I keep track of my phases, how did I still mess up? I'm going to have to humble myself here and just be honest and just share with you the truth, because not doing so doesn't serve me or you. One of the most significant things I did wrong was I did not eat enough. I did not make sure to eat enough throughout the entire month. Maybe some days I ate heavier than others, but some days I barely ate anything, and I really didn't pay attention to the reality that during the luteal phase, your metabolism increases and you need to eat more. You need more complex carbs during the luteal phase. And I sometimes will just cut carbs because I think that's the right thing to do, because I come from a diet culture background that I really try to monitor and get off of me, but I did not nourish my body the way it needed to be nourished. Secondly, I ate way too much sugar, especially leading into my second week of luteal and that first week of luteal. But the way that you treat your body in follicular and ovulatory is going to impact luteal. There is no special time of the month that you should be giving your body love so that your period isn't bad. You should be doing it the whole time. We can do it the whole time, and it is great to do it the whole time, and it looks different per phase. So I ate way too much sugar. I drank way too much coffee. My husband has gotten into a really awesome love for espresso and is making fresh espresso every morning, and I did not discipline myself on resisting that, especially on top of not having enough food, eating too much sugar, not drinking enough water too, by the way. And then here's one of the trickier kicks that happened, one of the things that I messed up on. I didn't do the exercise that I maybe could have or should have or wanted to during my ovulation phase. And so in my luteal phase, I tried to play catch up. But when you have hormone phases, your body actually needs different types of exercise per phase in the month. So during ovulation is when you can actually push yourself, but during luteal is when you need to back off and focus more on like strength and lengthening and balance versus cardio. I didn't do the exercises that I thought I should have done during ovulation phase. And so I tried to play catch up in luteal, and I pushed my body with the wrong mindset. Instead of gently nourishing and working up a sweat, working up an exercise in a way that is sustainable and healthy, I had a poor mindset and thought I needed to catch up. And I pushed my body in ways that hurt it. Because as a woman, when you are needing to slow down and instead you increase intensity, what you do is you raise cortisol. And cortisol is good, but excessive cortisol is not. Another thing that I did that was just, is I spent way too much time on digital things. I spent way too much time scrolling on my phone, watching Netflix, on YouTube. 40 minutes will go by and I haven't moved out of one position and I've stuffed my brain full of nonsense. And if it doesn't make sense to you why scrolling can be such a detrimental ailment to the body-mind system, it is because of what I just said. The body is stagnant while the brain is overstimulated. This creates a lot of miscommunication and error in the body's flow. So that was a huge mistake. And then maybe more minor things were I didn't get consistent levels of sleep. I stayed up really late. I slept in really late. I didn't get myself up and moving. I got up and I scrolled on my phone for 30 minutes. I know so much better than to do these things. So if I know so much better, why did I do it? So the period before this period had been significantly easier because that month I had monitored these habits very diligently. So I think because that period was so much easier, there was a part of me that let go of needing to do the due diligence and decided it wasn't necessary because my period was better. So I slipped harder because I didn't do what I know I needed to do, and instead I did what I shouldn't have done. I experienced holistic consequences of that by my body shouting out, crying out, and saying, "This is not healthy." I hope that made sense. What I'm trying to say is I didn't rein my flesh. I let my flesh choose its way. When we don't direct and rein the body, with firmness and gentleness and nurture and love, the body chooses instant gratification and the things that it is addicted to. It's really not the body's fault. It lives in an environment where these things are readily available and pushed on it. So that's why we have to practice this diligence in reining the flesh and commanding, directing, loving, guiding, and shepherding or stewarding our own self toward what is good. So now, part 3, what am I going to do differently moving forward? The number one thing that I'm going to be doing is I am going to be cycle syncing. I have already been practicing this, and I had an experience years ago when I first learned about cycle syncing where I really practiced it and my periods got so amazing and I knew which phase I was in. I was very in the flow and very in touch. But if you watch my hormone journey testimony, you'll hear the story of how when I moved to Turkey, I got very sick and my cycle was thrown really off. So I'm dealing with the aftermath of something happening that has caused my hormones to go boom. Cycle syncing is living your life in a way that aligns with the hormonal needs of the phase you are in. For example, in my menstrual phase, I ate much heavier, warmer foods to bring a deep nurture to my body. As I am shifting into my follicular phase, I'm bringing a lot more raw vegetables in, and I'm pulling a bit away from the meat. Practicing cyclical nutrition, cycle-based nutrition, so eating the foods that best support the hormone functions that you are dealing with at hand is a huge thing I will be tapping into this month. I am also cutting coffee and we'll see if I cut it for the full month, but I'm like, I just don't even want to touch it. I'm so put off of it because I just experienced such extreme pain and I don't know how to experience that pain again. I'm also pulling back on sugar. And these ones are such obvious things, pulling back on caffeine, pulling back on sugar, but when I say to you that I don't even crave the sugar right now, I have had such a trauma in my body that I don't even want it. So I'm pulling back on sugar, I'm pulling back on caffeine. I will be getting myself up every morning as I have for the last week. I am waking up in the morning, opening the curtains, opening the window, and breathing in fresh air. I will be practicing exercise that is appropriate and with a restorative mindset. So I am not going to exercise this month once with the mindset of I need to lose weight, I need to get into shape, I want to look better. Scratch that and throw it away. There's no way. I will only be exercising my body this month with the mindset of restoration. I am restoring my strength. So what I have done for the last 5 days, maybe 4 days, is I've walked for 30 minutes on my treadmill and done light stretching. Now that I'm entering follicular, maybe in 2 or 3 days, I'm gonna add some like actual strength exercises to that, but it will be low impact, low intensity. I'm not going high intensity this whole month. I just can't. There's no way. Another thing that I will be doing is I will be doing more time reading and journaling before bed. And on the morning flip side of that, I will also be spending time in prayer, in scripture, and journaling in the morning as well, because I want to set up my mind to have clarity and command of myself in the day. I don't want to just bob from thing to thing. I want to choose what I do and be intentional about it. So I will be setting myself up with that success. I would like to show you a project I'm now working on. I have been seeking a hormone journal that works for me. Though I could probably find one and pay for one, I'm a creative person and I like to make things, so I'm also working on now my own hormone journal. So let me get that in the light so you can see it. The highlights of this is to track which phase you're in, your sleep, your water. So understanding what you've had for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks and sweets, and then healing habits. And that could be anything that's like exercise and prayer and meditation and bubble baths, like whatever you chose to do that day for your well-being. And then also keeping track of supplements, which can also include herbs, teas, essential oils, because I have been bringing those into play now too. Your emotions, your symptoms, your day's target, a stress meter, and a joy meter, because cortisol is a huge thing. And if you're just stressed, like managing your stress is one of the biggest things you can possibly do for your health in general. So actually paying attention with a visual component of what's going on there. And then having a highlight of the day so we can also have something positive going on. It's all positive, but if your emotions are like, the world is ending, well, let's find something in the day that was a highlight and good, because that's not true. It's just how you're feeling, and feelings will pass. The final thing that I want to say before I say goodbye is that our periods are so important. They are communicating to us what is happening throughout the entire month in our body. And I could choose to try to power through this, take a bunch of painkillers, or even do hormonal birth control to control the symptoms, but the symptoms are communicating something really important to me. And I am a married woman, and my husband and I do talk about children someday, and if I don't address this now, who knows what kind of problems I could have in pregnancy or in delivery. Please don't dismiss your periods as just being a horrible part of life. They're really not. And I can say that because mine have been very balanced before. I once met a woman who said out loud that she has periods because her body hates her. Please, if you have any such type of thinking inside of yourself, address it. Realize that that's not truth, that you are designed to have this monthly change inside of you, and that it's actually such an incredible tool for being able to monitor where your health is. So please, if you are a woman, please pay attention to your periods. I encourage you to start tracking them, and I encourage you to hang around here, and we're going to talk more about how to utilize the information of the 4 phases in your life. And if you are a man and you have somehow made it through this entire video, incredible. Please take this information into your heart as well and understand that the women in your life are not crazy. They're experiencing really intense hormonal changes that could be out of balance due to external factors, and they don't know about it. We are not taught in health and wellness as teenagers anything about our hormone phases, and when we do go to doctors for painful periods, they give us birth control. So this is something that God has designed and something God has mandated that for some reason mankind tries to shove to the side and pretend like it doesn't have significance and it's just an inconvenience. Let's try to address those thoughts and heal our mindset around our cycles so that we can actually lean into what they're telling us and pay better attention to our health. That is the end of that. I appreciate your time so much. Thank you for staying in. My name is Kayleigh. I love talking about health and wellness, and I love sharing the truth about my own journey to be honest that healing is an ongoing process, and it is the process of processes. There is no end product. There is only this right now. If you have any comments or questions, or you want to share any part of your own journey, you can leave us a comment below, or you can also find me on Instagram. My username is the same everywhere, Kayleigh Öğüt, but it's Kayleigh Öğüt if you say it the proper way. You can message me on there and we can have a conversation about this too. I hope sharing my journey helps you on your journey. That's all. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.